Hello, Mr. Hausman. How may I help you?
Oh, God, dude. I've been in Vegas 1 week, 2 separate events. Help!
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. I am excited, delighted, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that each and every one of you guys are here with me today. You know, for once, I'm not actually in a coma. I'm feeling pretty good because I just arrived here in Las Vegas, Nevada. But before we get started, I do want to thank so much Duetto, who part of this show is being brought to you by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform. I don't know if you knew this, but thousands of hotels are already using Duetto to make more money. And you need to ask yourself, are you one of them? If you're not, I really hope you'll check out GetRevenueResults.com and listen to a great interview I did with their CEO, Patrick Bosworth. Everything that you need to know about revenue strategy, the history, how you could benefit from it. And it's not one of those big salesy things. It's really an educational piece, which I encourage each and every one for you to learn. Also, check out NoVacancyNews.com because I've got a great access to a white paper from the good folks at Duetto that you're going to want to read. It's the blueprint for taking business back from the OTAs, and who doesn't want to do that? I know I do, and I'm pretty sure my guest with me today wants to, keep some of that money for himself, even though he doesn't own any hotels. So let's set the gear shift to the high gear of your soul, and I'll bring in Mr. Bruce Ford. How are you, sir?
Glenn, may the 4th be with you.
Hey, thank you. It's really good to have you here, Bruce.
Oh, well, it's always great to be in Las Vegas to get to hang out with you before conference craziness starts over the next couple of days. We're doubled up here, you know.
All right, so we're doubled up. We've got both the HD Expo and we've got Choice Hotels International, which I'm here officially covering for the good folks over at Choice. But I'll tell you, Bruce and I have decided to do this podcast upon our arrival because last year we did it before our departure, and the show was so amazing, we actually had to hit the delete button.
Yeah. I think we let Las Vegas get the best of us from a content standpoint, and we had some unmentionable things that we just chose to discard.
Right. Yeah. So here's a practical lesson for all of you hoteliers out there. You know, after you've listened to your podcast with CEO Patrick Bosworth from Duetto, don't enjoy yourself in Las Vegas for 4 days and then attempt to do a podcast. I don't even think David Copperfield could pull off that kind of a trick.
Glenn, I had one of those conversations in the elevator this morning. A couple of people were really fresh and ready to go, and a couple of people looked like they hadn't gone to bed, and they're like, really, you're here in Las Vegas for work? That would never work for me. I could never do that.
I don't know if I've ever been here not for work. I don't know how I do that, but you've been here on vacation.
Sure. Yeah, a couple times. Most recently last fall, actually, for a few days.
Very lovely.
And I believe we crossed paths on that trip for at least for a day or two, if I recall correctly.
Oh my goodness, that was before the lodging conference.
Yes.
When we were out here enjoying ourselves for a little bit. I believe we went to Bandito and had a terrific lunch podcast over there. So go check out that podcast from the end of October. I think you guys will really like that. Bandito is such a yummy, tasty Mexican restaurant off the Strip. Affordably priced and incredibly delicious.
Well, we went off the Strip today for, a West Coast staple, right? For some In-N-Out, Glenn?
Yeah, I'm still recovering from the In-N-Out. I'm hoping we could get through the entire podcast without feeling its ill effect.
Oh, okay. So, no outs. All right. Very good. Very good.
Thanks for sharing that idea.
Well, hey, sometimes you just got to complete the thought.
All right, so we're here in Las Vegas, and the last time we did a Vegas podcast was last fall. And I got to tell you, Bruce, a lot of things seem to have changed over here since we were last here. Last time we were here, it was pretty kind of dour and depressing during our stay at Mandalay Bay, but it seems like the energy's back here in the city. There's a lot of exciting projects that are moving forward since we last talked about Vegas specifically on the microphones, and I'm feeling pretty good about what's happening down here.
Honestly, it's great to have 2 hotel industry events in this hotel this year. I think that's a scheduling happenstance, but also very good for the industry because the hotel industry does know how to put the hotel services to bear. So that's great to have it here. I also believe that I don't think the investment interest in Las Vegas has changed. very much. As Marriott's announced, obviously the redevelopment of the old Fontainebleau, which is going to be the Drew project, Crown Casinos with a new development, Wynn with a new development. So there's lots of activity, and there's a number of renovations underneath that new construction activity, and the expansion of the convention center is driving a lot of that. So that's all really good news, and that will extend the cycle out here much past the economic peak, which is somewhere on the horizon in the not too distant future.
Here's the one thing that always puzzled me. I've never been to the Las Vegas Convention Center, if you can believe that. I've spent all of my time at Mandalay or Venetian Convention Centers, very little time at some of the other ones, but never the official one.
Well, I can say that I have, and those kinds of conventions that go there, Glenn, are obviously over 10,000 people. We don't quite get that many here at our hotel industry events. But in the hotel industry, where we commonly have our conferences in hotels, which is not too common for all other industries, but we kind of tend to do that automatically, if you will.
Yeah, so when you're looking at all the new projects that are going to be happening here, is there one that you're perhaps more excited about than the others?
Well, I think from a renovation standpoint, I was looking at the Cosmopolitan redo, a lot of new suite redos at the Cosmopolitan that seemed exciting now that that's privately held again.
Well, the thing was that they had, I didn't even know that they had several floors that were just never completed.
Right.
And they spent, $100 million creating some amazing high roller suites?
Mm-hmm. In addition, Arias and MGM sold the Mandarin Oriental in the back of that, so that will probably lead to some other new developments. And of course, MGM's expanding outside of Las Vegas too, with a couple other casinos that are not in typical casino destinations.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got Massachusetts, which is the big deal that's happening, and I think they're trying to do one in Connecticut as well, although that'll change the gaming compact with the Mashantucket Pequots and the Mohegan tribes up there that own Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun respectively, and I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I've heard a lot about those two guys, those two tribes coming together for another casino.
Yeah, well, it's the interesting market in New England is that the cluster of the 6 states, if you will, still got drive to when you get to Connecticut, and of course the activity in the Catskills, we've seen some new casino development there, but MGM Springfield is scheduled to open August 24.
Yeah, August 24th.
Will I be seeing you there, Glenn?
I hope so.
Yes, I think we need to make that happen.
I think that would be a really good idea, but I think, is it August 24th? I feel like it's maybe it's June 20. No, maybe it's August. The both in Atlantic City. Sorry to be jumping around from casino jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but Hard Rock and the new Ocean Club, the former Revel, we're going to be opening up on the same day, it looks like.
Same day?
Yeah.
So should we, do a live podcast, you in one location, me in the other?
I think that's a great idea.
All right. Well, while we're workshopping, Glenn.
Yeah. All right, but let's swing back to Vegas. You mentioned, MGM going to other jurisdictions. Caesars is doing exactly the same thing. Our good friend Marco Rocca, who used to do development for Hard Rock, moved over to Caesars last fall, and now that move is bearing fruit. They've got a project, I think, coming to Cabo and a couple of others around the world as well.
Sure, they're going to use some of their brands to go to other places, as MGM has. Certainly the Skyloft and the Bellagio brand are doing other things across the world, but Caesars has an interesting plan. Of course, they have a Nobu hotel inside the Caesars, which is getting very good reviews.
Which is the first one. I think it's 7 or 8 years old already.
Well, they have Nobu has, I think, 8 open locations across the world, another 8 in the pipeline right now. So really high-end stuff.
Really high-end stuff. And when Nobu went ahead and they opened up the hotel, I got to tell you, I was that guy that's like, why do we need this? It doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Then I stayed at it. I loved it, and I've been wanting to go back and stay at it ever since. I haven't. My fault, but I thought it was such a great product.
I think that the casino resorts are both at the food and beverage, the gaming seats, and then also in the guest rooms have figured out that people have a different propensity, and they can put those price points together and put those packages together at the rates people want to pay and what they're comfortable at. And then this happens a lot more in this town because they want to get all your action, not just your gaming action, but your food and beverage, your entertainment, and your guest room action.
Well, they really have no choice because most of the money is being spent off the casino floor, and if they're not actively vying for those dollars, then they're really missing out on a lot of opportunity and upside.
Yeah, so what does parking do to that, Glenn? I mean...
$15 a day self-park, $24 a day here at Mandalay Bay if you want to get that valet.
Yeah, that's a lot. But I never rent a car when I come to Las Vegas, but certainly they have a lot of drive-to clientele that do, and that can be a downer.
Well, yeah, especially when you're talking about your $40 a day resort fee on top of that.
It just keeps getting better.
I know. I gotta tell you, I love this town so much, but if I wasn't here on business and I wanted to come here on vacation, I think we're at the point now where I, and maybe a lot of other people, are going to start to reconsider that Vegas vacation.
Boy, you're digging pretty deep there, Glenn. I'm not sure I'm in the boat with you on that one.
That's fair. Hey, that's fair. I like it when you disagree with me. It makes for better conversation.
Still, what they're trying to build here, Glenn, okay, what they're really trying to build here is not just casino gaming, but a different kind of destination.
Agreed.
And with so many states legalizing gambling, having all aspects of gambling available in the local area. See, I got now, when the Wynn Boston opens next year, I will have 5 casinos within a 2.5-hour drive of my house, where 15 years ago I had 2.
I have one about 10 minutes from my house now.
Would you go there?
I went there on a mission to check it out, and I do not need to ever go there again.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can't even have in my opinion, I don't think any of the local casino resorts are anywhere near in comparison to a Las Vegas type of property. Sure, when we were at the AHOA event at the end of March, MGM National Harbor comes close.
Yep.
Right? Really close. I think they've done a bang-up job with that. But the vast majority of local properties that I go to are fine, but they're not anything that, unless I had a real hankering for gambling, would drive me to go to those properties. Here, I don't need that.
You're thinking about the differences here, okay? And the differences here are, in Las Vegas, many of the locals don't come to the Strip, where we go. Okay, they only come here for entertainment. They're going to go see a show. Congratulations, Mariah Carey, another residency at Caesars.
And Gwen Stefani's got one now.
Yeah, Mariah Carey starts July 5. So, the residency thing, I'm sure that they come to the Strip for entertainment purposes, but not to gamble, not to go out to eat, because it is dramatically more expensive than in some of the local casino environments that you can get.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the friends that we have here that used to come to the Strip, honestly, since the parking thing started, and they're more reticent to come down here unless they're coming to visit friends that are in from out of town. But I don't really think that they needed a whole lot to tip in that direction anyway, because who really wants to come down here when you're, when you're...
Well, when you're in Orlando and you live in Orlando, do you go to Disney Springs to go to the mall?
I would say no.
No.
Right, I agree. Listen, when I lived in Washington, D.C., when I was at the University of Maryland, way back 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can't believe it was 30 years ago. That I started there. I wouldn't really go down there a lot unless I had company coming, because how many times can you do that over and over and over again?
Yep, this is true. And for the most part, this is a travel-to destination. It's I wouldn't say it's 95% of the business, but I'm sure it's a very, very high percentage. And the larger conferences and the larger conventions seem to be riding this economic cycle well. And, of course, the external economic events that affect the hotel industry, we haven't seen one yet. We don't know what the next one will be. The stock market is pretty volatile. And, at this point... it's really a mixed bag.
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag. But as I've said on the show, and I probably told you before, I think that we've had a fundamental shift in our society to more of an experience economy than a materialistic economy, which is one of the reasons why I think that this cycle is no longer following the same patterns of previous cycles. It just keeps going and going and going. With that whole attitude of traveling a lot more, I think that even when the economy starts to falter, you're still going to see a lot of general travel. You know, everyone's still got to go away to take their kids away to compete in those sports events every weekend, for example.
Yes. And with less and less people reporting to headquarters every day to go to work, we have that small meetings business becoming very popular as well, which I think is driving a lot of upscale development, Glenn, at these airport locations. We're seeing a ton of that.
Yeah, I am so excited about the TWA hotel that's coming to JFK.
Of course, it's been in every publication, and it's still, 2 years away?
Something like that.
I mean, it got some great write-up over the past 60 days. I know that they had some new photographs and obviously some renderings that they wanted to put out there. I saw it printed in quite a few places, but I get way too much news into my email anyway, so at the end of the day, it is part of a larger development that is happening in and around the New York airports, and that's a direct result of the reinvestment being made there, traffic patterns changing, and quite frankly, they haven't had a lot of new hotels out there, but they will soon enough.
No, they haven't in a long time. You
Yep.
know? That old, Ramada closed a number of years ago, and they've just kind of let that building kind of rot away. You know, and hopefully there'll be some more development. But that TWA one looks great. It looks a lot of fun. I love how they're combining a brand new structure with the classic historic structure that they have over there in front of the current JetBlue terminal.
So we talked about Accor Hotels this morning. You and I were talking about it. So the latest new hotel at LaGuardia is the Ibis Styles, which is their upper mid-scale brand coming in from Paris. First one.
Yes,
but then they also announced they're going to
Starwood brand as well. Is it an A-Loft? Yeah. See, I watched them build that one because I park right next door to it. This Air Park Parking. So check out airparkparking.com. Good guys over there, and they get me in and out, especially LaGuardia. So it was great to see the Ibis coming over there.
Right. So Accor has also announced with their Fairmont purchase from 2 years ago that they're going to do the first Raffles Hotel in the U.S. It's going to be in Boston.
It's going to have residences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, Accor also in the news today with their purchase of Movenpick Hotels, a global hotel company, for just under $550 million. So they're very active out there in the marketplace, continuing to expand their brands, and they're up to 19 now, I think. Oof. So they're ahead of Hilton, but behind Marriott.
More consolidation. And Marriott is now getting into the vacation home game.
And we went into that in the last podcast, a significant amount about consolidation, but it's still going on. Will continue to go on. If the stock market stays above 23,000, it will keep going. And keep going and keep going.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. But I understand investors are starting to get a little antsy, nervous, and as you said, things are not moving with the stock market in the way that they have been over the last 6 months or so.
All the hotel companies that have reported earnings so far this 1Q, Glenn, they've all beat it.
Yep,
beat the earnings estimates and kicking butt.
Hotel economy doing really great. We'll see what happens with the stock market. I'm not really sure that the stock market is necessarily pegged to reality, you know,
but you know, very much if you're a small business owner, those are the two topics. What's the stock market doing and how much did I save on my taxes?
Yes, that's right. And I saved on my taxes. I don't negative a lot of money because my taxes are going up because of the rules that were put in place for us New Yorkers, Californians, and other folks that have high real estate taxes.
Yep. Welcome to the real world, I guess. Thanks, Donald.
Yeah, and my gas prices have been soaring as well, so that's been a real treat.
I'm not paying $3 yet. You must be in New York, though, right?
Close to $2.90. Some places are $2.99. I think they're afraid to flip the switch to the
We're like
free.
$2.69 right now.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Wasn't it just like 2 years ago? It was like $1.60 or something like that?
It did get all the way down there, didn't it?
Oh, my God. That was the best. So, Bruce, what else do you want to talk about today in terms of development and what you see in the future of Hotel Horizons?
Well, Glenn, we just put out our 1Q report, and it's still very much the scenario that 70% of the rooms in the new construction pipeline are residing in the chain scales of upscale and upper mid-scale. There is only one chain scale, and it's not really even a chain scale. The unbranded have over 1 million guest rooms. It looks like upscale is going to get to over 1 million guest rooms this year, Glenn.
That's pretty impressive. I want to talk about these unbranded hotels for a minute.
Yes.
1 million guest rooms.
1.25 open, actually.
I wish there was a better system than just unbranded, because you've got upscale, upper upscale, all of these different categories, but then just unbranded. But those 1.25 million rooms are not the same. You're going to have them through the whole story of hospitality, from luxury all the way down to
I could give you those
economy.
breakdowns if you'd like.
You have
Glenn.
that kind of stuff.
Of course, yes.
All right.
Lodging Econometrics does classify every unbranded hotel with a like-type chain scale.
Wow, this is not planned, but it almost feels as if it was planned.
It almost feels as though it was. So about 800,000 of those 1.257 open guest rooms, so 1.257 million open, about 800,000 are economy. And then 450,000 are spread amongst, with a significant amount of that being an upscale and upper mid-scale.
Right.
Roughly 300 of that, and then 150 into the other chain scales. There was one interesting fact that you'll like, Glenn, I think. In the luxury space, luxury branded new construction pipeline, about 13.2 or 13,200 guest rooms in the new construction pipeline, but luxury unbranded or like type luxury, 15.5.
Wow.
Nationally. So there are more luxury independents than luxury branded hotels in the pipeline in the United States. And that'll kind of tell you where we are in the cycle right now.
It really does tell me where we are in the cycle, but isn't a lot of hotels also get affiliated more closely to their opening date, you've said in the past? Or
not as much
maybe
in the
that's changed
luxury
'cause
space.
Right.
Not as much in the luxury space,
that makes
because
sense.
usually those are so highly customized in their design, and there really aren't any luxury. What do they call the soft brands there? There really aren't any luxury soft brands per se. Okay, so most of that's in upper upscale and upscale. So if you're a luxury hotel and you've gone into the pipeline, typically you're committed to being unbranded.
Right. All right. That makes a lot of sense. Any more observations in regards to the pipeline? Because I'd like to talk a little bit about what's going to go down this week.
What's going to go down this week, Glenn, is people are going to be talking about Las Vegas again. It now has the second most rooms in the new construction pipeline, only behind New York.
Wow.
So New York has about 25,800 rooms in the pipeline, with nearly 50 hotels scheduled to open this year in the New York market. And Las Vegas now has 19,700 rooms.
Does this city need that many more rooms?
I think with the expansion of the convention center, and again, you know, the Fontainebleau didn't open, but it was in the pipeline before as 3,000. Now it's going to be 4,000. So that's kind of something that was already there that kind of was committed to, and now with the expansion of the Las Vegas Convention Center, it's going to be right there, Frank Sinatra Boulevard. So,
right.
I mean, it's almost a no-brainer, and they've talked about that one for a long time. But Wynn has got a big expansion there. Obviously, they're building on top of the golf course that they've closed, and then which is really the Echelon development now finally going forward, which
is Resorts World.
Been out there before, so. From there, it's really kind of breaking up the casinos and maybe doing some branded stuff in there. I think, the Venetian still affiliated with IHG.
Right.
And, of course, the Cosmo is still an autograph collection. And what's the other one here?
Tropicana's a Hilton.
Correct, DoubleTree, yep. And so you see some brands breaking into the Strip, and, of course, Four Seasons here at the Mandalay as well.
And let's not forget Best Western at the Stratosphere. And also the Best Western Plus right on the Strip right by Venetian Palazzo, as a matter of fact.
Right.
It's one of those properties that you kind of forget about, but how cool to have one of those old school classic properties still left in the middle of the Strip.
Yep. So there aren't any of those left. That's the only one. But, we see the development heading north towards the Stratosphere, Glenn, and it's really going to change that area up there quite a bit.
I hope so. For our friends that work over there, I know that they've been hoping for a continuation of all those great projects, which will feed them a lot more people over the long term.
But most of the openings now that are getting into the pipeline in Las Vegas are 2021, 2022 type of thing. So nothing really imminent right away. Whereas New York, with 50 new hotels opening this year, if you haven't felt the new supply pinch yet in New York, you're going to start feeling it pretty
all
soon.
the people that I know that have hotels in New York are having a real tough time maintaining rate. It's going to be good for us come June when we're there for NYU, but not so good for the hoteliers.
So will you be doing a last-minute booking engine to maximize your stay value, Glenn, or were you?
I have not yet decided my approach for that particular trip. I'm hoping that somebody just comes through for me and wants to put me up. So if you have a hotel room in New York and you want to put me up for a couple of days, I'm there for you. If
Why
not,
am I not surprised?
If not, I can just grab an Uber and drive around all night and take a
right.
nap in there.
So estimated openings, Glenn, we had 117,500 rooms open in 2017, 130,877 this year, 137,105 in 2019, and it'll probably be something like 145 in 2020. So significantly, pipeline still growing, openings still growing, and we're still in a new construction cycle.
Excellent. So what does all of this mean, if you could put it in a nice little bow for us?
I think people still want to build hotels, Glenn. It's still feasible to build hotels, and it's probably cheaper to build one than it is to buy one now because you've had 8 years run-up of operating performance growth. So it's time to look towards maybe building one.
Excellent. I love it. Let's go do that.
All right, let's do that. What would you prefer, Glenn? You probably want to do one of those independents, right?
I just want to do something. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay.
You know?
In our second life.
Yeah, right. Because, we're not busy enough as it is right now.
We got things.
Yeah, we
got
definitely have things. Speaking of things, how about giving us a good shameless plug before we wrap up, Bruce?
So BFINNH on Twitter. Follow me this week. I'm doing a panel with Jay Stein, the CEO of Dream Hotel Group, Larry Traxler, the head of global design for Hilton, and Gary Dolans, the head of global design for Hyatt, on Wednesday at 3:15 at the HD event. Pipeline, where is it going? And then I'll be doing the owners roundtable on Thursday morning at 9:30 for HD as well, and I'm excited to do both of those again this year.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you plugged the events that took place in the past, because this show is coming out 2 days after that. But we'll get you back on and discuss those panels for sure and see how it went.
Well, the great stuff is, Glenn, is we're going to go all the way around the world on that panel, so I'm very excited.
Now I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say over there, and I'll be doing a panel, I believe, with Jay Stein at the NYU Hospitality Conference on Monday, June 3rd or 4th, whatever that is. At
Very nice
4
guy.
PM.
They got a lot of pipeline all over the world.
He's a really cool guy. I like him a lot. And he's inspired me to wear more sneakers with suits, so I like
Bob
that.
Kraft didn't do that for you? Oh, that's right, you're a Jets fan. Sorry.
Well, my relationship with the Jets is a complex one, Bruce Ford.
But you got a good quarterback this week, so you shouldn't be too upset about that.
I don't think it's going to get any worse, right?
Probably not.
All right. Well, I want to thank all of you guys for listening. Stick around, because after this commercial break, I've got another great interview coming up. I can't wait to tell you what that is, because I don't even know. You know how it works. I got so many great interviews in the can, I'm never sure which one I am going to be running. So I stick around after this commercial break. Lots of great stuff. I want to thank you for listening, but now it's time for me to go. And remember this, whatever you do, take care of your shoes, and we'll be back after this commercial break.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No vacancy. The hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Glenn Hausman, and you know me from the No Vacancy podcast, but I have got an all-new show coming, and I'm partnering up with the #1 guy in hospitality, Mr. Anthony Melchiori.
Now, it's called the yin and yang of hospitality.
That's right.
So I need to know going forward, because I'm a control freak, am I yin or yang?
I'm definitely the one that starts with Y, and you could be whichever one you want to be.
I'll be the one that starts with Y.
All right, so you're going to have more great banter just like this every single episode on the yin and yang of hospitality, found wherever your favorite podcasts are available. Any final thoughts?
Yes, I'm yang.
All right, I'm Ying. Thanks for listening.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. Thanks for sticking through that commercial break. I know it was not that painful. It was a good commercial, and I'm glad that you are back here. Well, I'm excited because I have Mr. Tim Franzen, the president of Graduate Hotels, an up-and-coming, interesting brand that I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback with. And I got to be honest with you, I haven't stayed in one, but I really want to, and I'm sure after this conversation, all of us will. Hey, Tim, welcome.
Thank you very much, Glenn. I'm so excited to be here. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, I'm looking at your phone right now. You got a great sticker on it, or is that just actually built built into the. Oh, it's
Yeah,
wood.
it's actually
it's
a carved
wood.
bamboo iPhone case.
I love
custom
that.
made with the Graduate Hotels logo.
That is pretty cool. Well, mine is not that cool. I've got on my phone. I just have a sticker with the No
It's a good
Vacancy
sticker.
podcast
It's a good sticker, though. I like that.
I like it too. I'm very excited. But then again, I gotta give myself credit because who else is going to?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. So my first question to you, sir. Are you a genius or are you absolutely crazy starting a new hotel brand in this world of consolidation when all these big companies are getting bigger? What are you thinking?
Well, I tell you what, it's one of these things where we've actually heard a lot of people say, "Why didn't I think of that?" or "I thought about that, but we never did anything about it." We saw a white space. We saw there's a really amazing markets across the country. These university anchored markets. There's great food. There's great culture. There's a lot of fun things to do there, even outside of the university. The campus community. And there just wasn't a hotel product that reflected it. There wasn't. More often than not, people are coming to these towns for these communities for emotionally charged reasons, and the first thing they see is the hotel. The last thing they see is the hotel, and it didn't match. You're going there to go, visit. As an alumni, you're going back to school. You're going to visit your son or daughter. Maybe they're going to think about going to school there.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you've got all these great reasons to go there and have a lot of fun or do something really interesting. And the hotel product across the board was very, very lackluster. It just didn't match the communities and didn't really reflect them.
All right, so before we get into all the specifics and address that particular question, I think it's important to give the listeners a primer as to what graduate hotels are and why you're different. And you're not that same old bland that you're accusing the other hotels of being.
That's exactly right. So Graduate Hotels is a collection of boutique hotels in university-anchored markets, basically taking the boutique hotel experience to smaller communities that didn't have it in the past. So we're open in 10 markets right now, but the whole idea is to really do things more interesting through interior design, food and beverage, that is, again, really reflective of that community's history and culture. So we get tagged as being college-themed or millennial-focused, and we're none of those things.
Well, you're called graduate hotels. I mean, they can't figure it out that it's not undergraduate hotels.
Exactly
it's right there in the name.
Exactly right. It makes perfect sense. And by the way, I had not even thought about that argument. But no, so certainly we're serving a customer base that's business transient, or they're people from all sorts of generations. And part of what we do in the interior design side is we use furniture styles and fabrics that go back to the 1920s all the current day, because we want every customer, whether they're 20 years old or 80 years old, to come back and see something that reminds them of their youth or another day. They recognize that as another point in their lives, and it creates a sense of nostalgia that I often get in these university markets.
So you want to remind me of the youth. Does that mean you're going to strap me into a car without a seatbelt while my dad smokes with the windows closed? Is that how
exactly.
That works?
Yeah, like my brother and I fighting over who got to sleep in the back window of the car when you could do that, because that was definitely a thing my brother and I did. Yes, absolutely,
totally. That is pretty hysterical.
Absolutely.
I love the damn, I'm forgetting the name of the car with the big back.
Oh gosh! Oh, good question. I'm drawing a blank. But so many of those cars were just boats, and there was this also. So you're either sleeping in the back window well, or who was going to sleep on the floor where there was the transmission bump, and you had to deal with that. That was always the argument.
I remember everyone always fighting over who's stuck in the middle seat.
Oh, exactly right. And that was for us because just two of us, but no one actually wanted to stay in the seats. And so there were no seatbelts involved, and if they were there, we weren't using them.
No, they certainly were. All right, so I'm glad we had this talk today. I guess we should probably talk about hotels instead of cars from the 1970s and 80s. All right, so where did the idea come from? I know you said white space, blah, 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 but that doesn't tell me where did the inspiration come from like this, and where was the ballsy move to go ahead and create something like that?
Absolutely. So AJ Capital Partners, which is the parent company of Graduate Hotels, AJ Capital Partners is a hotel investor and developer, and we've always been in the independent or boutique and lifestyle space. That's always what we've done. Actually, Ben Wepper, the founder of the company, started actually in luxury resorts, Bears Resorts. He actually was an owner of that company for a time, but at the end of the day, we morphed into getting into more bigger city centers like Chicago and Nashville and New Orleans. And after a while, we started looking at, where else could we go next? Where was the next iteration of AJ Capital? And by the way, AJ, there's no Alice Johnson or Alex, somebody else. It's Adventures Journeys. And so Adventures Journeys really speaks to what Ben had envisioned for the company in the hotel space, is really unique and experiences in the hospitality sector. And so we were looking for new avenues of investment. We started thinking about going out to more secondary markets and kind of looking around, where could there be some good opportunity. There were a couple of towns across America that were more secondary but had some good success with independent hotels or boutique hotels. But about the same time, we had a young guy in our office who went to the University of Michigan, who was saying, hey, there's one hotel in downtown Ann Arbor, we should buy that. And I think that coupled with a hotel we had in Chicago, actually in Lincoln Park. Mm-hmm. So if you're familiar with Chicago, Lincoln Park is very much a neighborhood, a very young neighborhood. A lot of people right out of college, a lot of young professionals. But it's certainly not the Loop, it's not Michigan Avenue, it's not River North, where all the hotels had traditionally been.
Right.
And so there was an old hotel there, it was really dumping, and it had closed down, went into foreclosure. And so Ben had the foresight to buy this hotel and turn it into this great local community hotel. He cored through the building, a 16-story building, built a rooftop bar on it called the J. Parker, great coffee shop in the lobby right on the street, and it became very, very popular with all the local community.
What year was this?
This was, this is probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay, back when rooftop bars were kind of just new and
very.
and
Matter of fact, that was really the first true rooftop bar in Chicago.
Right, now they're standard issue.
Exactly right. And by the way, as a Chicago native, born and raised, I'd say it's still the best rooftop bar in the city, absolutely, bar none.
Particularly in February, I'm sure.
Exactly right. Other than the one we did at the Chicago Athletic Association, which is also amazing. So
right.
Yeah, exactly. But so the Hotel Lincoln, why I brought that up is the fact that it was only about 6 or 7 blocks away from DePaul University. And so the success of that hotel, in large part because of the relationship it developed with that university.
Right.
Because you had a lot of alumni coming back, staying there, parents visiting their sons or daughters, visiting professors were staying in the hotel. They were really loving it. And so kind of the swirl of let's go to secondary markets, let's buy this hotel in Ann Arbor. The Hotel Lincoln's got this great relationship with this university. Why don't we just focus on university anchor markets? And
right.
that was really the light bulb that went off in Ben Weppern's head and said, this is what we should do. Let's focus on these university markets and let's take the boutique experience there.
Right. Smart idea because, traditionally we've been in this crazy cyclical business. I know things are kind of changing now, mm-hmm. and I'm not so sure we're going to be in the same cycle kind of trap. But I will say, university business is always there. It's always dependable. But so between that and maybe your next chain, which will be, hospital hotels or something like that, right? I think medical and university are two real strong drivers of business that can keep you flush all the time. And
that's right.
Creating an interesting product that really meets the current consumer needs just really adds to that.
Absolutely. And one of the things when we were putting the business plan together several years ago, we did a lot of research and looked at these markets. And one of the things we were shocked by was the fact that the volatility in these university-anchored markets, and we'd use that term deliberatively. We don't call them college towns because a lot of them really aren't. At the end of the day, we looked at a lot of them and compared them to kind of the top 20, 25 MSAs, and we found that these markets were about a third less volatile in terms of the RevPAR performance than all the major markets. So
right.
you have this economic engine, this anchor to the community that was really the driving factor. Now, there's got to be some other reason to come to town. It can't just be a school. We have to have another demand driver to support our hotels. But at the end of the day, we just love the fact that they were not nearly as their volatility was much lower, and so they're when they have RevPAR drops when there's recessions,
of course.
But it was really mostly ADR driven. We were really shocked, and we looked at about 40 university markets and compared them to 20 or so top 20 MSAs, and in the university markets after this last panic and the recession that ensued, is that they all had RevPAR drops, but most of them, their occupancies stayed flat. And some of them actually rose through the entirety of the recession. People go back to school, or they stay in school longer, or they look for, hey, the private sector's not working out, maybe I can get a job in education. And so we were really, really shocked by that and how stable the stabilizing factor the universities provide at the end of the day.
When you're dealing with a university, are people more transient, or are they staying for a little bit long, or is it a healthy
It's still
mix?
pretty transient. No, we do see a fair amount of visiting professors or researchers, administrators who will stay longer. We've played with the idea of throwing in some kind of extended stays type rooms in our mix. We haven't done that yet because you do see a certain amount of extended stay business, but we're really focused on that transient segment.
Right. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about development. You've said you got 10 open.
10 are open right now. Exactly. We opened our last, the 10th in Minneapolis, Minnesota, on the University of Minnesota's campus.
And you're owning and operating all of these.
So we own, but we do not operate.
Okay.
So we're oddball in that sense.
Yeah,
So
that's weird. I know I'm making a face that you can't see on radio, but that's highly unusual.
It is very unusual. To say we own the real estate and we own and created the brand, but yet we don't do the part in the middle with the actual operations. Yeah, that's very unique.
So who do you get? A management company?
Yeah, we use third-party management companies. Right now we're using 4 different companies across the 10 that are open, and we're open 3 more this year and on from there.
All right, so where can we see one? I know in New York you're building one in Roosevelt Island, which we were almost talked about beforehand, but I wanted to save it for this part of the conversation so everyone can hear it. That's pretty crazy to build it on Roosevelt Island because I grew up in the New York region. I've been a New Yorker my whole life, and Roosevelt Island was just something you look down on when you're driving over the bridge.
That's exactly right. When you're going over the Queensboro Bridge.
Yeah.
No,
the Ed Koch Bridge. Please
I'm sorry, that's right. That's modern lexicon, right?
Yes.
Exactly. That Koch Bridge. So no, it's very true. So I don't, as far as I know, there's never been a hotel in the island, at least not in the recent history.
I know.
Exactly right. So you may have to go back to the last turn of the century to go find a hotel there. There was some psychiatric hospitals and some other.
There's still the ruins of it all the way at the south part of the island, which I think is the coolest, creepiest thing.
It really is amazing. It really is. No, we couldn't be more excited about this one. This one it's been a long process, but the partnership we created with Cornell University there at Cornell Tech is something that we couldn't be more proud to be a partner with them. It's a very ambitious project, just like their campus. So Cornell Tech is a partnership between Cornell University and Technion University out of Israel. They won an RFP with the City of New York going back to, I think, 2011, to build a applied sciences graduate school on Roosevelt Island. And so they always knew they wanted a hotel as part of that campus, an important part of the campus, but it took them a long time to figure out, who they wanted to work with and how they wanted to go about it. And so they went through a long process themselves, Cornell did, in terms of finding a hotel partner. And we were ultimately selected. And like I said, couldn't be more proud and excited about it, because it is an ambitious project, and it's going to be an absolutely beautiful, a stunning hotel when it's done.
When is that going to open?
It'll open 2 years from now. We actually just broke ground 2 weeks ago.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So where else are you going? Where are you headed to?
So this year we'll open up in 3 markets. We'll open up in Iowa City, Iowa. We'll open up in Bloomington, Indiana at IU. And then the last one this fall will be in Seattle, Washington at the University of Washington campus. And then next year I think we're on plan to open 4 or 5 hotels. That includes Columbus, Ohio, New Haven, Connecticut, and then we're breaking ground very soon on a property in Nashville, Tennessee. And I think by the time we get to 2020, we'll definitely have over 20 hotels and close to 25.
I feel like it's required by law to operate a hotel in Nashville at this
yes,
point.
now it is. And by the way, this will be our second. We also, AJ Capital also developed and owns the Thompson Nashville over in the Gulch.
Wow.
Exactly, which has been a huge success for us. It's a fantastic hotel.
Yeah. I really like it. So,
which, by the way, I've still never seen. I've heard it's a fantastic hotel. I've never seen it myself.
Listen, you didn't need to confess it to me. Nobody would have known. But I think we should take a field trip over there. We'll go.
I love that idea.
We'll go. We'll have some hot chicken. We'll
there we go.
Some music.
Yes.
And we'll hang out.
Absolutely.
All right. I love that. So, where does this head? Where does this go? Do you guys want to keep it forever, or do you just at some point just want to sell to one of the big brands and go and retire somewhere?
I tell you what we love about what we created is there's a lot of optionality. We own the real estate, so you could sell the real estate. We own the brand, so you could sell the brand. But we really created the brand to drive value to the real estate. We're real estate guys at the end of the day. That's my history. That's my background is in real estate. I'm a deal guy. And so we created it to help drive the value to the real estate. So at the end of the day, if there's ever money to be made on the brand side, that's gravy. But it's really about trying to make money on the real estate side of things. And so for us, we just love the optionality. We also love the fact that these markets are so stable. So yes, we'd love to be, matter of fact, our original partner in this, we bought out last year because we wanted to keep this going. We wanted to keep growing the brand. We love the kind of anti-cyclical nature of these markets. And it's something we'd rather own for a long, long time as a company. Absolutely.
First of all, I love the word optionality. I think that's
Thank you.
That's great. First time I've heard that on the podcast. But I'd like to learn a little bit more about what your arguments for being a renegade on your own company, because I listen to all of the big brands and they keep telling me scale, 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 scale. I could just say that word over and over again.
Sure.
Because that's all I hear.
Yeah.
You have to have in every single segment in order to draw people to the loyalty program, all of this kind of stuff. But with 10 hotels open currently to date, you certainly don't have that. And I'm not necessarily going on a tour of all the universities.
Yeah.
So is it just because it's a completely different product? How does that work in terms of you rationalizing all this development to enhance the value of the real estate?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was on a panel earlier today here at Hunter.
Right.
And
I should say, yes, we're recording this at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference in Atlanta, Georgia. I want to thank them for allowing me to be a media sponsor. Go Hunter. Okay, go on.
Excellent. And I actually I got a question from a brand guy about that very thing, about building loyalty and for us, we're just building loyalty a different way. AJ Capital Partners has always, since its inception in 2008, has always been focusing on a hotel customer, hotel guest, they're not making their primary decision based on loyalty points and a free breakfast. That's never been AJ Capital's core customer, and it never will be.
It's more like I have to go to the university for X piece of business.
Yeah, it's very. So they're coming to a market for a reason, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to give them a hotel product that's fitting of that and worthy of that community, honestly. And so we're looking for a customer, and we got a lot of road warriors. We got a lot of business transient who come through because they're selling goods and services to the university. So we have to cater to them as well. But we're trying to build loyalty in a different fashion, and that particular segment's really hard because they like their loyalty points and like those things. So we have to build it another way. And for us, it's about just providing a much better experience, much more fitting in the community, and ultimately just better hospitality and old school hospitality. So you're never going to see us doing check-in kiosks. We want our customers and our front desk agents to have a conversation,
right,
and really talk about something. And we create stuff with our interior design that creates a conversation. In Tempe, Arizona, I'll give you a great example.
Please.
Where we worked with the university, we figured out that ASU has a particular international renown in the study of social insects, so like bees and ants. And so we learned that just by doing our own research. And so we reached out to this department and said, hey, we've got a crazy idea. We're doing a hotel across the street from the campus.
Right.
And we'd like to build a giant ant farm.
Oh, cool.
And they said, are you kidding me? And they said, well, they helped. And so this thing was literally about 4 feet tall and 8 feet across. And for a long time, it had 500,000 honeypot ants.
Wow.
I kid you not. And it was right behind the front desk. You couldn't miss it. It was, you walked up and people would say, is that literally an ant farm? And we're like, and the front desk said, yes. Let me tell you why. And now it was great because it created that interaction with our guests and our front desk agents. It was a point of contact, a point of conversation, something to talk about other than here's your room, here's the Wi-Fi passcode, and the restaurant opens at 6. It was something more than that. Now, it worked perfectly for that purpose. As a science experiment, it was a horrific failure because after about 3 queens being revolted against, there was a flood, a sprinkler broke, and they all got washed out. So they all died off. So now there are no more ants in the ant farm. The ant farm is still there, but there are no more ants in the ant farm.
Well, I got to tell you, that's kind of relieving because I hate to be the guy that has to count all the ants and take attendance. I could be like 100,027, 100,028. Oh, 1, 2.
It's certainly something you don't want to advertise on the internet. It's like, hey, we've got a lot of ants in our hotel.
No, right. No, just uncles.
Yes, exactly right.
All right. Sorry for the bad joke. Next, I would say maybe you should put together beehives.
Yes, there we go. Exactly right.
That would be perfect. Hopefully,
that'll definitely be a rooftop experience. Though.
And then, rooftop experience. Then you could serve the honey.
Exactly,
and
I like
all that.
that.
You can make Moscow mules with the honey in it or something
I like
that.
Where you're going. I
like where I'm going too. We're gonna have to go hang out at that rooftop bar in Chicago and see if we can get some of this to happen.
Very nice.
What are you most excited about going forward? Is it that you're going against the grain and doing something that everybody isn't doing, or is it maybe something completely different that I'm not thinking of?
To me, the most exciting thing is not so much to where we're going, is what happens when we open one of these hotels. Is the amount of thought and effort that goes in, and all the interior design is done in-house. We've got a 7-person interior design team that's absolutely fabulous. Andrew Alford, who runs it, is incredible. He's a creative genius. At the end of the day, all this effort and time you put into developing and designing these hotels, it's the payoff. Is that when I go to one of these hotels and I just sit in the lobby like a fly on the wall and just watch people come in, and the wow factor I get, the eyes wide open and like, oh my God, what is this? And especially when you get that from locals, people come in, it's like they heard about the hotel up, and we invite a lot of people in for tours. We want to make a big local community connection is big for us. And I'll give you a good example. We opened up a hotel in Berkeley, California last year, about May of last year. It's a historic hotel. It's called the Hotel Durant. Been there forever. A restaurant called Henry's, where everyone that goes to Cal, they have their first legal beer at Henry's. That's kind of the tradition. So we turned it into the Graduate Berkeley. We did a ribbon cutting last May, and the mayor was there. So I was walking the mayor around the lobby, and he stopped me, and he just stopped cold in his tracks. He looked at me, he goes, you have absolutely captured the spirit of Berkeley, California.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, that's it. Like, that was that's what we're trying to achieve.
So, is it just a giant safe space? Is that
yes, exactly right. Exactly right. Certainly in that market.
I don't mean to go to the easy jokes, but I'll take
certainly,
the cheap.
Yeah, that was teed that one up. Teed that one up.
All right. So, the design element of it, I think that's really interesting to me. How does your design team capture that market? Do they spend some time there? Do they have to live there? How does that really work?
It all starts just by doing a lot of online research. So they're looking online. They're trying to look at the stories of the community, and we play on not only the the stories and the history of the university, but the community itself. So oftentimes the stories we're trying to play up through our design are just about people maybe who grew up there but never had any affiliation with the university. Sometimes they're famous people, sometimes they're infamous people in the community. But we're trying to tell that story of the history and culture and reflect that of the university and the market that's our host. So they spend a lot of time researching. They go to the community. They spend time in the community. They go to the bars and restaurants. They talk to locals. They talk to the people. They actually spend a lot of time walking around town and around campus looking at the fashion and looking at what people wear. And so they take a lot of cues from how people dress in these, because it does differ. I mean, people, college to college, there's some similarities there, but there's also a lot of differences too. And so they spend a lot of time looking at fashion, seeing how that influences. So you see a lot of plaids in our hotels, a lot of prints, and very kind of collegiate, kind of things like that. But they're really trying to focus on, well, what is the? I'll give you a good example. In Oxford, Mississippi, down at Ole Miss, our hotel there, the lobby is 3,000 square feet of pink oak flooring.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it is totally Southern preppy. It's to the core, and you can't get more preppy than that, than a pink floor, right? Exactly.
Right.
So the
floor is actually named Biff.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So no, it's they just do this fabulous job of understanding the culture and the community, eating at restaurants and understanding like what's known here, what's the specialty here. Why do people come to this market and what do they love about it? They talk to people and say, what are you most proud of in Ann Arbor, Michigan? Like, what makes you, as being an Ann Arbor resident, what makes you most proud about being an Ann Arbor resident? And they play off that kind of thing. So they spend a lot of time doing the research and going to the property and getting to know the people there.
All right, first of all, I want that job. That sounds like a lot of fun. And second of all, I'm really relieved that you did not have graduate hotels in the late 80s when I was in college, because what a lot of the kids wore, not me, was a sweatshirt, skids, which were like flannel pants, and work boots.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, no, I went to college in the late 80s, early 90s, very much the grunge era. So, yeah, I always say I went to the wrong, grew up in the wrong era fashion-wise, that's for sure, certainly in my college days.
Yeah. I mean, back in our college days, I got to see Nirvana and stuff back when they played Small Rooms, and
sure.
It was a really good time to be in college.
Absolutely.
I liked it because it was before the internet.
Oh, right, exactly. That's a game changer. I've got a son who's a freshman in college right now. He goes to the University of Colorado out in Boulder. And it's a whole, how they deal with it all nowadays. I just don't understand. It's a whole different kind of life, a way to live your life.
Yeah. I'm worried for my kids when they get to college, because if they have any fun whatsoever, it might ruin their lives.
Exactly. That's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in my history that nobody's ever going to know about.
No, and for good reason, right?
Right. Thank God. All right. So before we wrap up here, what haven't we talked about? I feel like we got most of it, but I still feel like I'm missing something.
Well, I tell you what. I mean, for us, we're growing fast, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna have 25 hotels here in a few years. There's still a lot of markets we really, really want to be into. I mentioned University of Colorado Boulder, so personally, I really have to work fast because I've only got 3 years before my son graduates. I can have a hotel room for graduation week.
Well, I'm impressed that he's only going to take 4 years. I took 5 and was really on my way to taking 6.
Well, he's also a brilliant coder, so I'm not sure he's going to make it through 4 years of school before he just quits and goes get a job. So, but no, I think we're just so excited about the trajectory of this and how it's resonated with our guests. We've got a lot to work on. Like, we're kind of making this up as we go along, and so that's part of the reason why we did is we didn't want to follow brands' rules in terms of you have to have a pool here, you have to have a 3-meal restaurant there, and so we do what fits that market. And if that market is a place where you want to have a pool, like Tempe, Arizona, we got a pool. And if a place where you need more meeting or ballroom space, we're going to add more of that, because oftentimes we found there's a hole. Maybe there's a big conference center, but then everything else is courtyard. By Marriott, where they don't have the meeting. They've got to prescribe, one room. It's 1,800 square feet, and they split it in two. And so there's a hole. There's maybe there's 200 or 300. You want to have a 200 or 300 person event, a wedding or something like that. Where do you go in some of these? And a lot of people love to go back to those communities just for that. And so we just love the fact that we have this flexibility to create something that really works for that community and really reflects the community.
Speaking about working for the community, I just recalled the one thing I did want to talk to you about. Bringing in local people to eat and drink and make you money. How is that working out for you?
So that is absolutely key to what we do. And I'm glad you brought it up, and really going back to the Hotel Lincoln that I mentioned before in Lincoln Park in Chicago, is that part of the reason why I was so successful is that the local community adopted us very, very quickly. And again, that was through our food and beverage, the rooftop bar, the coffee shop. And so as a hotel guest, and it seems maybe a little counterintuitive, if you walk into a coffee shop or a bar and you're an out-of-towner, you're there from out of town, and you realize immediately that you're surrounded by people from the local community. It's pretty evident that who's there. You actually feel more part of the community, and you feel like you fit in better than if the place is dead. It's a weird thing. It wouldn't make sense that way, but it really does. So, there's vibrancy to it. There's activity to it. You feel like you're part of the community, right. And so for the hotel customer, they get a much better experience. They're enjoying it much more because they're surrounded by people who live and work and sometimes they may have an interaction with them.
That's how I feel when I go to Chinese restaurants that have a lot of Asians in it.
Exactly.
I feel confident in my decision.
That's right, exactly. And I'd hate to use the word authentic, but it feels much more authentic that way, right? Exactly.
Well, right. Well,
yes.
I could talk about American Chinese food versus real Chinese food all day long. I like experimenting with more of the classic real Chinese food myself, but that's not helping you sell drinks, and it's not really relevant to this creation.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, if more people in our food and beverage venues, the better, right? That's more people, more revenue. But again, it just creates a better experience for our hotel customer at the end of the day.
Are you finding that people are coming there and camping out and getting work done as
well?
Oh,
God, yeah. We get students hanging out in our lobbies like for hours on end, overnight. I mean, they'll sit there for 6, 7, 8 hours on end. They may or may not buy a cup of coffee. We don't care. That's fine. We like the fact there's activity, there's vibrancy. They got their headphones on, their laptops out. That's great. But we're willing to play the long game with the students in that respect. So they've got parents. Maybe they're going to come visit them. They're going to come back one day as alumni. Hopefully they're going to develop an affinity for us and stay with us. So we don't target students, so to speak, but we love the fact that they found our places. As a matter of fact, a lot of students will hang out in our lobbies because they feel like they're in the middle of a Wes Anderson movie set. So
they hope to run into Bill Murray or something.
That's right,
like
exactly.
That, right? He always makes guest appearances in a lot of places.
Someday we'll get him there. Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts?
I really just the pleasure doing this. I love what we're doing. We've got a really super passionate team, and we're having a ton of fun. Because I tell you what, working in college towns doesn't suck.
No, it certainly doesn't. All right, a shameless plug for you guys. How can people find you?
www.graduatehotels.com. You find all our hotels on that one website. We've got a couple of fantastic brand videos on the website, so definitely check out those videos. Matter of fact, we just did a new one a few weeks ago and just put it up on the website. So please come check us out.
Well, there goes my plan to try to sell you on some videos. Dang it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Tim, and I want to thank all of you guys for listening. This is great, and if you're not getting our newsletter, be sure to do it. It's just real easy. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's the word hotel to 66866, and you'll get subscribed to our Sunday night newsletter. Again, I want to thank you all for listening, and I will be back next week. That is, unless I decide to go raise some bees on a rooftop somewhere in Chicago. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.